Few more to talk about off of the readiness assurance process quiz for Module 2. Suppose the company that owns the vending machines on your campus has doubled the price of the can of soda. So the percent increase in price of can of soda is 100%. If they then still sell almost the same number of sodas per day, this suggests, okay, we've got a very inelastic demand. So very close to zero. If price goes up by 100%, quantity demanded goes down by, let's say, 2%. That's an elasticity of 0.02, very, very small. When the elasticity is less than 1 in absolute value, then we say the elasticity of demand is inelastic, less than 1. When a fraction is less than 1, it just means the denominator is bigger than the numerator. If the quantity effect were bigger than the price effect in proportional terms, we would say the price elasticity of demand is elastic. And if they're exactly the same, price elasticity of demand is measured at 1, and we call that unit elastic. All right. So here, what can we say? Students do not have good nutritional information. Maybe, maybe not. There are a few other places to purchase soda on campus. That would be the logical thing, because nothing has changed except for the doubling the price. So it's not the information that has caused that. Soda purchases represent a large fraction of students' budget. Maybe not. Maybe not. We don't know. So we don't really know about A or C. Price elasticity of demand is equal to 1. Well, we definitely know it's not D. So this is, again, one of the determinants of the elasticity of demand is how many substitutes there are. We find that on campus there's probably not very many substitutes for the few vending machines that campus has allowed to be there. They're probably all owned by one company. So if the price doubles in one, the price doubles everywhere else. So it's another one where there's no substitutes. The other determinants of demand elasticity, people tend to be really price sensitive when the things they're purchasing take up a big budget share, just because my rent on my apartment have taken up a third of my income. Well, if it doubles, I simply don't have the money to stay in that apartment. So I'm going to get some roommates or move or both. And so I tend to be very responsive. Whereas for something like salt, it's cost $1 for one of those canisters, and I use one. If it were just me, not my wife's a baker, but if it were just me, I'd use one of those canisters every 5 years, 10 years, I think. Before I had the same canister of salt before I married my wife. Anyway, I'm not going to. Price could double, triple, quadruple. I don't care. I'm not going to think about that before I put salt on my French fries. All right. The other determinant is time. The longer I have to adjust, the more likely I will adjust. Short times, well, especially for things like gasoline, things that I've got sort of a whole lifestyle worked around the kind of car I have, the kind of furnace I have in my house. It takes time for me to react to the price changes of such items. But over time, I will react. Maybe not today, but when my furnace breaks, I'm going to buy an efficient furnace. When my car breaks down, I'm ready to buy a new one. I'm going to be thinking about fuel efficiency if price of gasoline is high. Suppose the price of a Snickers candy bar is $2 at both the airport and the grocery store. The price elasticity of demand for a Snickers candy bar at an airport is likely to be, what do you think? Greater than, less than, reciprocal of the price elasticity of demand for a Snickers candy bar at the grocery store? Well, at the grocery store, chances are on the way home you're going to pass, Mama Gia's or Hello Market or 17 other places to buy a candy bar. So if they're really expensive in the grocery store, you have other options. At the airport, you're not gonna. Usually it's a hassle to get to the airport. You're at the airport. If you want a Snickers bar, you're going to buy a Snickers bar at the airport. There really isn't any other option. Maybe like Milky Ways or something, but the demand is likely to be less than, again, in absolute value, smaller than in absolute value, the price elasticity of demand in the grocery store. So answer C is the right answer there. there's fewer substitutes. I'm not as responsive to changes in price. My price elasticity of demand and absolute value is lower than it would be at the grocery store. Learning how to talk about this stuff is a big part of what we're doing in an introductory course. All right, this one I would have guessed would have been the harder one. This needs a little bit of background. You remember I told you way back when, a couple screencasts ago, that the elasticity of demand is defined as the proportionate change in quantity divided by the level of quantity, and that's all divided by the proportionate change in price divided by the level of price. This expression can be rearranged into the following. I'll let you employ your algebra skills to show that. I can rearrange this to an equivalent expression that is delta Q over delta P times P over Q. Now this is a special way to present this information. Realize that we're in this price quantity space, quantity on the x-axis, price on the y. And the slope here is, the slope in this section, for this kind of a curve, price on the y-axis, quantity on the x-axis, is rise over run, so delta P over delta Q. Well, notice that we've got something that looks pretty similar to that. We've got delta Q over delta P. And so another way to say this, that's the reciprocal of the slope. We can express this as 1 over the slope times the price level over the quantity level. And this is a very precise way. If we have the expressions for the functions, we can express elasticity in this way. So this can be really useful when we have linear demand curve. So what's the slope of this curve? Let's just take the rise over run. It's a straight line, so it's constant. We've got the slope is, what's that, 5 to 2, that's 3. And I don't need that delta. Delta P is equal to 3, and run is 3. So the slope is, oh, that's not 3. I didn't notice that the units were different there. That is 4 to 10 is 6. So the slope is negative 1/2. So 1 over that slope is negative 2 times price over quantity. But price over quantity, let's look at what point I'm looking at. Point C. So price is 3 times 3 over, and quantity is 8. So we're left with negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. Negative 6 over 8, which is equal to negative 3/4. We know that this Frank and a lot of other economists talk about that in absolute value. So the absolute value is 3/4. Oops, I don't know. Talking and writing at the same time are a challenge for me. So C is our answer. That was hard. Now it's not hard, right? Now you know how to do this. This is worth either being able to know how to derive it, that'd be my preference. The general definition can get you this formula, but it might be worth memorizing. All right, last one. Suppose that if the price of plane tickets increased, more people would choose to travel by train. The price of plane tickets increased, more people would travel by train. I just had a flashback, like a PTSD type of thing. One summer, plane tickets were so expensive that my family and I took the Amtrak across the country to Wisconsin. 48 hours was the scheduled time. No, it was like 40 hours. Anyway, it was a marathon and sort of a nightmare because everybody else had been doing the same thing and the train was absolutely packed with people and oh, what a horror. Anyway, sorry. If that happened, you would know that the cross price elasticity let's think about that. So the cross price elasticity of demand, and we'll just go E X sub Y. So we're going to now think about how the quantity demanded of X as a proportionate change how that relates to a price change of good Y. And if the cross price elasticity is equal to 0, we can conclude those two goods are unrelated. But in this case, we've got the price going up, the price of plane tickets going up, and the quantity demanded of train tickets going up. So that's a positive cross price elasticity. And this is true for complements, right? Because if the price of one good is going up and I'm shifting away from that good to another good, so the quantity demand of that other good goes up too, that's complements. If the two goods were substitutes, we'd find, now, if the two goods were substitutes, if the price of one of the let's say two goods are let's say romaine lettuce and iceberg lettuce. So if the price of romaine lettuce goes up, my quantity demanded of I'm sorry, it's late in the afternoon and I'm talking without thinking. Let's we know that the cross price elasticity is positive, but planes and trains are substitutes, not complements, right? So for substitutes, when the price of the one goes up, I'm going to run over and do the other. So the quantity demand of the other would go up. So when the cross price elasticity is greater than 0, is positive, that means they're substitutes. If, on the other hand, we were talking about complements, let's say peanut butter and jelly, the price of peanut butter goes up, well, I only eat peanut butter with peanut butter jelly sandwiches, and if the peanut butter gets real expensive, I'm more likely to have a ham and cheese sandwich or whatever. So if the price of peanut butter went up, my quantity demand of jelly would go down. Those are complements. So if this is less than 0, then the two goods would be complements. Sorry for tripping over my tongue on that one. So back to the question. Plane tickets are an inferior good. No, that refers to income elasticity of demand, not cross price elasticity. Plane tickets and train tickets are complements. No, because the cross price elasticity would be negative if they were complements. And I would say don't memorize that. Just when the chance comes up, just think that when a cross price elasticity of demand question comes up, just think through if it's two things, bagels and cream cheese. If the price of bagels went up, well, I'd eat less bagels and I'd also eat less cream cheese. So just think through an example of things you know are complements, things you know are substitutes. Cross price elasticity is negative. Well, that's not right. B and C are the same, by the way. And then A, I'm left with A. Cross price elasticity between plane tickets and train tickets is positive.